Okay, hello and good evening, everyone. We are so excited to welcome everybody for tonight's workshop. If I don't already know you, my name is Blaine Cower. I have the tremendous pleasure of leading the homeowner services team here at Dallas Area Habitat for Humanity. And I could not be more excited about the topic that we are getting ready to dig into tonight. If you are here with us tonight, we hope that you are just as fired up about this topic. We are talking all things women and money and how we can take control of our finances as women who are doing it all. If you are a mom, we feel you. We're going to talk about some of that dynamic tonight. You might hear my little one in the background as well. We got to do what we got to do, right? And so, send us chats throughout tonight's presentation is what I would encourage of everyone on tonight's call. We are going to get all of your questions answered, and I am so excited to introduce you all in just a moment to our fabulous presenters who are going to be with us tonight to dig into this topic. I want to let you know if you have questions, we want to hear from you. So please utilize the chat box, utilize the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we promise we will get to as many of those questions as we can this evening. Without any further ado, it is my tremendous pleasure to introduce you all to our fantastic partners at Wings. We have two amazing team members from Wings here tonight, Selma Welsh and Daria Offord, and I'd love to just turn it over to our friends at Wings for them to do a quick introduction. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Blaine, and thank you so much for Habitat for Humanity for giving this opportunity to be here this afternoon with everyone. And first and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Selma Welsh. I'm the Senior Financial Coach here at Wings, and I am so excited to share this interesting information with everyone today. Like I said, it might make us a little upset, but we're going to leave off, with a lot of, next step goals for ourselves, and also, leave off on a positive note. I'm also going to introduce also my wonderful director and also like co-facilitator for tonight, Daria Offord. So go ahead, you want to introduce yourself, Daria?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Selma. I am Daria Offord, Director of Economic Advancement with Wings Dallas, and I am so excited. If you know anything about Wings, you know we love all things women, no discrimination against our amazing gentlemen that we do work with, but we have a true passion for the women in our community and seeing them truly, truly grasp the financial freedom and financial elevation that they desire. So I'm super amped about tonight's topic. Selma is very well capable of driving this train, but I'm excited to hear some of your questions and feedback with you guys and just talk about some of these topics.
Thank you, Daria. Daria, feel free to jump in if you want to jump in at any time. But we'll go ahead and talk a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about Wings. We'll do that at the end. So if you please stay to the end about the different programs, and if you would love to connect with us, please do. Our website is in the chat at wingsdallas.org, and we'll talk more at the end a little bit about what Wings does and how can Wings help you, and also in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Like technology, we'll just have to get it going. 1 second. Thank y'all for bearing with me. Okay. Let me put in, okay. So we're going to talk a little bit, everybody's good? We're good to go? So we're going to talk a little bit about gender disparities and kind of in the financial world and with our money. It's not only about money, like the income that comes in. There's just so many aspects when it comes to the disparities, the gap between women and men nowadays. We should be really happy because we've come really far over the past 100 years, but we're still not there yet. And there, like I said, I am very happy that we have been able to raise up the wage gap and do some different things here and there. But like I said, there are some major disparities. So we're going to talk about a little bit after this. Like I said, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and we were actually going to have any questions, we can definitely expand more. So we all know that the gender gap is still presented. So it's still a thing. It's been a thing for a really long time. And so typically women are only paid 82 cents for every paid dollar to a man. And this is actually lower for Black women and Latinas or Latinx the Latinx community. So right now, we're only getting 82 cents. It has gone up the past few years. So that's one of the biggest, hurdles that us women already have today, is that we, if you are a person of color, a woman of color, you are getting paid the 82 lower than 82 cents, but just in general, we'll all get paid a little bit. Women see a drop after having a child. We were talking about Blaine has a child there, so we see a drop in our pay, in our wages when you have a child, and men do not. And that's really important to look at, to see how a mother on average only are paid 71 cents to every dollar to their paid to their father. So if you are a mother, that does, kind of go against you when you're trying to get a higher pay. Another thing when it comes to the wage gap is that our occupational segregation is a big thing. Male-dominated industries tend to be more, maybe more competitive. They have a higher pay than dominated by women, and they're less dominated by women. So those industries could be like in the finance, in the engineer, in the medical health field. That's where men usually mostly make more money than women, and that's women are used to maybe having those teachers, those nurses, those caretaker jobs than what men do. Another thing is the caregiver penalty. Women are far more likely than men to take time off to care for their children or family member during their career. Think about yourself. If you have any children or any maybe older family or any type of family that are sick, you're more than likely to take off, and that can really hurt your pay at the end of the day. If you're hourly, are you losing hours? Is your job or profession, going to maybe make a strike against you, or you're gonna have to take PTO or sick time when it comes to that time you have to take off to be a caregiver. And we also know that gender, race discriminations and biases when it comes to the wage gap will always be one of the biggest hurdles when it comes, just in general, when it comes to income. Because the income we get, the wage we get, is probably the biggest factor. I really wanted to touch on this. This is stuff that we all really kind of know already, but I also want to touch about other things that also there's a big disparity than just the wage gap. And that's probably what we hear the most, but I want to talk about women in wealth. And I want to let you know that women invest less than men. And there's a lot of research that women are just maybe not as knowledgeable. They lack the confidence. They maybe lack the resources, the education when it comes to investing. So also men are typically most likely to be a little more aggressive. So they're out there with that risk and reward. When it comes to women actually think a little about long term. Do they have the money if something happened to their family, to their children, if they lost their job, if something happens? So women kind of think to themselves, I better kind of hoard this money and maybe in a savings account, or under my bed or whatever, in something at home, because I never know what's going to happen. Women have a higher student loan debt. They hold nearly 2/3 of the debt across all education levels. So women, we know we want to go to school to get a better education, to help us with a better job, to help us, maybe, advance our career. But our student loan debt is higher, with a higher interest rate than most men. Women have 1/3 of the retirement saving as men. Women are 80% more impoverished in retirement, meaning we are not giving to our retirement at any age, that we are sometimes ending our retirement with no money at the end of the day. So, most women are, they say 80% of the women do lack retirement funds, that we're not giving as much. And this also goes back to when it comes to investments. We rather bring more money home to serve our family, to save, to help others in need. And so that's the reason why retirement is probably one of the back burners when it comes to saving for, towards that. I do want to say that also I learned that when it comes to retirement, women just don't think that they're going to retire because they feel like they have to work, that they have to be the caregiver, they have to be the kind of the breadwinner. And that's mostly when it comes to single moms as well, that, retirement is somewhat of a dream, that's not the luxury that they have. And that's something that we really got to start thinking about, how we all want to retire one day. We don't want to work until we're 100 years old. So what does that look like for everybody? Single women pay more for mortgage loans and are denied more than single men or couples. So if you are a single woman or a single mother, you're actually denied more when it comes to those mortgage loans, and or you actually have a higher interest rate or a higher loan. So when it comes to the mortgage loan, as you know, we're out here at Habitat for Humanity, there could be some disparity with other companies or other banks or other lenders that they, you know, they might see you as not as accountable to pay that loan back. Or if you're not, you know, maybe they just feel that you won't have the money or that you're not, you know, as responsible or whatever it is. But the fact that we're denied more than men, than single men and couples. Women are 5 times more likely than men to live paycheck to paycheck without an emergency fund. So that goes back to our income, to our wage gap. So what are we receiving? Do we have the money to be able to live and be able to put into savings, put into investments, and put into retirements? And it looks like we are 5 times more likely than men to not be able to all that. So we're living paycheck to paycheck, and that can cause a lot of stress. That can actually, if you are, let's say that you missed a few days because the fact that you had a sick child or a sick parent, how that affects your whole budget for the whole month, and how that's going to, you know, push you back. Is that going to have you have late payments? Is that going to have to, you're going to have to not, you know, be able to do something with your family because the fact that the income was less than what it was. So it's important to know that, you know, most women do live paycheck to paycheck.
I just want to jump in real quick, Selma. I'm so glad that you just listed all of those things. One of the things that strikes the most interest to me is understanding that in our nation, about half, it is about 50-50 now, of households are headed by women.
Mhm.
Half. And that's drastically changed over the last 20 years, 10, 20 years. It increased by 46%. And with that, it really brings all of those things into perspective, and understanding that with all of those odds against us, knowing that half of these households are headed by women in spite of these disparities, gaining this type of knowledge and understanding that these disparities exist are extremely important. But one thing that I want every woman on this line, on this meeting tonight, to remember, and I love that you titled it Women in Wealth, because it is okay to be wealthy.
Mhm.
It is
Yes.
okay to desire to obtain financial stability and to obtain wealth.
Yeah.
If you have to use your favorite lipstick and write it on your mirror and read it every day and tell yourself it is okay to obtain wealth. It is okay to knock down every single one of these disparities. And we're going to talk about how to do those things later as well. But it is okay to make sure that all of these things are not what's affiliated with who you are as you grow and learn how to obtain wealth in your life.
Thank you, dear. Yes, we'll definitely talk about that. I was going to definitely, and we'll talk more. I'll put a pin on that, but we'll come back to that. We'll circle back to that about how it's okay that you are allowed and no one's going to judge you for having wealth. And I think sometimes if it can be culturally, it can be a woman to say, well, you have wealth, but we'll definitely talk about more of that. You know, there's a lot more factors, and I'm going to highlight some more. Is that it's sad to say that 1/3 of women lack financial literacy, and mostly among women of color, that they do lack them along, you know, financial literacy. It could be due to, you know, not having the time, not having the resources, you know, maybe lack of the education when it comes to that. So that's one thing, the biggest factor when it comes to women, is they maybe lack that financial education. So they're just, it's the unknown. And then we're scared of the unknown. Okay. So that goes back to, you know, we don't want to invest because we don't know what's going to happen, you know, in 2 months or 2 years from now. So one of my favorite things to talk about is the pink tax. And I don't, I want to know that, you know, we actually, as women, get paid, we have to pay for things more. If you ever, you know, the cost of a razor is 2 times higher than what a man has to pay for a razor. So we are getting charged for products that are marketed differently because it's pink instead of it's brown or whatever it is. So on average, a the pink tax actually costs us over about $1,000 a year when it comes to things that we buy for ourselves. So just think about items, that you have, household items. It can be from shampoo, it can be from even makeup, it could be, like I said, shavers, anything that's basically more marketed to a woman. So if it's, like I said, the pink tax, if it's pink or glittery or whatever, they're actually making us pay more money than what a man would have to pay when it comes to just like a regular razor. On average, women will reach their peak earnings at age 44. Meanwhile, the men will raise at 55. So that is almost a 10-year difference, that we actually peak our earning age at 44. So most likely is that once you're at the age of 44, that's probably as high as you're going to get. Unlike men, they still keep going. So it's already, we stop and they keep going. And so, just think about when it comes back to retirement and savings and investments, how that's a big disparity right there. Another one, what really kind of hurts women in the financial world, it's obviously divorce. Divorce often has a larger impact on women's finances than men. This could be because maybe the men maybe earn more, and the women are not going to have as much money coming in. So it's a bigger barrier for women when there is a divorce. And that also talks a little bit about financial abuse. 99% of most domestic violence cases, there is some type of financial abuse. So they're not able to save. They're not able to put money aside for maybe their goals or for any type of wealth, that all that money goes to maybe the significant other, or their partner. So divorce and financial abuse is definitely two major barriers when it comes to women. Lastly, and a few more things, that 54% of mothers have needed to reduce their hours at work due to a family responsibility. So think about any time with you, or maybe somebody that they're having to leave work early because their child, is sick at school, that they're having to not, maybe even take an extra shift, because the fact that they pick up their child, or they maybe not even have to go to work, and think about, they might not be able to take an extra training because they're the caregiver at home. So 54% of mothers, they needed to basically reduce their hours, and also maybe a training to help them maybe succeed in their position. 65% of women versus 52% of men say that their number one source of stress is financial. Okay, so it looks like that women stress more, and we'll talk a little about this, but women stress more than men about when it comes to their finances. So, and just think about how stress can affect so many aspects of your life. And that gets me back to my next thing. So, but why? Why is all these things, all these disparities happening to us? And there's many reasons. Everybody's lifestyle, everybody's life, everybody's culture is different. So there's different reasons why some women maybe have these disparities and some women don't. But most common is that, like I said, it comes down to confidence. Women really, has been studies shown, and many people know that we lack the financial confidence. We are afraid to go out there and ask the questions, or we might not know where to ask the questions. Okay, where do we get those resources? And that's why organizations like Habitat for Humanity, Wings, any type of social service organizations is great to follow up. And that's why we're really here at Wings, to really help the women gain that confidence to be able to go and get wealth, to go and get a higher education, to go and buy a home on their own. So lacking that financial confidence. And that's probably one of the major reasons why women just don't invest, because we just don't know. We're just like that confidence. Money anxiety. So women are actually getting physically sick now. Okay. Physically sick, either, by health-wise, weight-wise, mental health-wise, when it comes about talking about money. Nearly, women are nearly twice as likely to have negative feelings than a man. So, like I said, not only is it, with our income, but it's also affecting our physical or mental health. So there's so much anxiety that it's scary for a woman to maybe pull that credit report. It could be scary for them to check their bank accounts at the end of the week. It brings up a lot of feelings when they look at their household budget of the month. So there's, it's physically making women sick to talk about their finances. Most, like we talked earlier, we're mostly the caretakers. we take care of not only our children, but maybe an elderly family member, our parents, animals, even other people around the neighborhood. So we're usually the caretakers of the household. So that's one major setback, because we're not able to put maybe more into our financial well-being because we have to take care of others. It goes back to maybe not controlling their own money. This can go back to their maybe the financial abuse, or maybe just not having the education to control their own money. So they rather have somebody else control their money. I have worked with a lot of women who says that I just don't know. So I gave everything to my significant other to control. So if there was a divorce, that they had to learn from scratch. So not in control of their money. And the message that society sends to women and girls around money can be damaging. So we always hear that women, they're spenders, they love to shop, they don't know how to handle their money, they like to, use the credit cards. So, think about any type of like movie or show that was showing some women shop and how they, spending so much on clothes or shoes. And there's just this negative, stigma out there that women spend money like nothing, that they are not worried about the future. So it's actually really damaging about what we see on any type of society or any type of media about women. Most ads are trying to connect to women to buy something. So that's really damaging. Even at a young age, when girls are getting that message that they have to spend money, that they lack the education to be able to be wealthy. And like I said, lack of education, but starting late. That many women that they're realizing I needed to do this, but they're starting at maybe at an older age, which is okay, which is great as long as you're starting. But maybe, if they would have started at a younger age, maybe they would have more money into their retirements. But just starting too late is another reason that a lot of the disparities happen. Now, the past few years, about 2.5 years, we have been going through a crazy pandemic. And this year, that they have actually called the pandemic, and they call the C session. Okay, in 2007, 2008, 2009, it was actually called the man session, because it was traditionally hit men harder than it hit women. Now, this recession, C session, is actually hitting women harder than men. And reasons are because the worst hitting industries were those that couldn't be done virtually. Okay, if they were maybe those in education, health services, retail. So they weren't able, restaurants, and things like that. They weren't able to do those virtually. There was a lot of, restaurants that closed, for a period of time. There was a lot of health services that were closed for a period of time until they got a process. So those were the worst hitting industries that were mostly women worked at. Essential workers were more likely to be women, practically more Black and Latinx women. 1 in every 3 jobs held by women has been deemed essential. So think about those. Nurses, you're thinking about, those who are maybe some type of cleaning crew, maybe some type of a teacher, any type of social work things, any type of, anywhere that it was considered an essential worker were mostly women that went back to work than men. Women are spending an average of 7 more hours per week than men on childcare and 5 more hours on caring for a sick or elderly. So during this pandemic time, since 2020, since March 2020 to even now, women are spending actually more time per week than on childcare work, being a mother, being a caretaker for someone, being a guardian for someone than they were 2 to 3 years ago. Approximately about 3.5 million mothers had to leave the workforce or lost their job because of taking care of a school-age child. So they lost their job or they had to take off. So it was already against them, because who was going to take care of their child? They couldn't leave their child at home. They couldn't leave their child with anybody else. We talked about, it's real life, who else is going to do it? It's also that safety for your child. So the fact that women felt that women had to leave their job to be able to take care of a child. So the pandemic really hit us women the hardest. Like I said, it's deemed the C session, just because the fact that it hit us the most than most men. Now, I really want to leave off, and we'll talk more questions about this, but I want to have some promising outlooks. We're women, we're awesome. We do things amazingly. It's amazing how many things we can do. And even with less money, okay, and women are more likely to give to nonprofits than men. So even with, even with only a few dollars, we're more likely to give to a nonprofit. We are more likely to give back to the community than men do who make higher. So that's something that we have in ourselves, that we are wanting to give back to the community. Women are more likely to pay loans back. And this isn't only about, paying a loan back to your bank or to a credit union. This is actually paying even family back. Okay, women are more likely to pay loans back to family, personal loans to friends, to anybody. So they're more about their word about paying back. This is a great one. Women enterprises ask roughly 35,000 less in business finances than men. That could be coming back that they're actually are better savers than men. And that goes back to women save more than men. That when they do have the money to save, they're actually better savers than men. So this also brings back to women are better investors than men. So we might not do it as much, but we actually invest better. Women are less risk, they're less risk advice. So we're not going to put it all in, go home, go big or go home. We actually seek the financial advice. It might take us longer, okay, to find what we want to do, but we seek that advice. We do the education. And so our investments actually perform better than men. Companies led by female executives are more likely to be more profitable than their male counterparts. So our businesses are doing it. We are actually, we're more successful. We bring in more money than some of our male counterpart businesses. And in 2021, 18% of home purchases were made by single women. So largely between the ages of 66 to 74. So it didn't matter. So a little bit later in life. So that was amazing. While men were only 9% were made by single men. So I think that's so amazing that even women that were maybe that are in that retirement age or that are, are older adults are actually buying homes. So there's, that's a goal they might have had their entire life and they are successfully completing that goal. So I thought that was amazing that 18%, were purchased by single moms, single women or single moms. And also the age was something that was amazing to me. So we're doing it, we're saving. So it goes back to, we are saving, we are doing different things to help us with our assets, with building our assets and growing our investments. And I wanted to talk also about this is a little bit, but I want to talk about how Daria talked about how, us lacking the confidence is that sometimes we are afraid to have wealth, that we might be afraid that what will other people think, what will other people say if I have an investment or I have this thing, I'm saving money for my future. And like Darius said that, sometimes we have to put ourselves first, and standing up for yourself and standing up for your financial and standing up for your money is the most important thing when it comes to bridging ourselves from the disparities. Daria, do you have anything more to share?
Yeah, two things I want to share. Funny story, just want to share with you guys. Transparent moment about my family personally and how one of the statistics totally applies to my family. So my husband will invest in anything. I was telling one of our classes a couple of weeks ago, our entrepreneurship ladies, I said, somebody call my husband and say, I got a group of singing goats. Will you invest 100,000? Like he will invest. He's just not risk averse at all. And I am super risk averse. Like I have to read 1,000 books about it. I need to see 100 testimonies. I'm going to watch 32 YouTube videos about somebody who's experienced it. I am so much more risk averse than he is. And it was interesting to actually see or hear that statistic because it's so reigns so true in my own household. And not that he doesn't see the fruit of his labor, he does, but it's just like, it really is crazy. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys that I talked to our team on Mommy Monday that I asked them to apply to this topic for their lives is the acronym DREAM. So the DR for drop, the E for everything, the A for and the M for me. Drop everything in me. Do it for you. Obtaining wealth in your life is all about seeing that true dream come into fruition, the thing that you still see when you close your eyes at night, that one thing that was in your heart when you were a little girl that just never went away. You know, some of us say, oh, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a singer, I'm going to be Beyonce. I don't know, whatever that dream was that you haven't quite let go of, or the new dream that is in your heart. Drop everything and need and focus on what it is that you need to obtain to see those things happen. If that is saving, if that is getting your debt under control, if that is focusing on your credit score, if it's launching that business, whatever it is that's going to help reduce these disparities personally for you. All of these things may not apply to you. You may be the best investor on the block. Hey, maybe you need to teach a class for us. You may be have a great steward over your finances and are looking to invest in other things and to just launch new things and help other people. Whatever that dream is, you have to start with the mentality that it is okay to see what I desire to see, because women do tend to be more selfless and do because of the disparities of being the head of the household and seeing that change throughout the generation, all of that responsibility. I think back to during the pandemic with my kids. I have 3 kids in 3 different grades, 3 different ages. And during the pandemic, trying to figure out who was supposed to be on Zoom when, what time is your class, when is your teacher on? It was crazy. And I had a spouse to help me, and I was literally want to pull all my hair out of my head. So trying to juggle all of those things. I remember even when my kids were smaller and deciding to take time off of work for potty training. That was a decision I made at the time. There's so many things that we do carry on our shoulders, that it is okay to carry your dreams to. It's okay to say, I want to obtain wealth. I'm going to obtain wealth. I'm not going to be fearful of obtaining wealth. And I'm going to create those SMART goals so that little by little, I can chop away at the things that are keeping me from being my greatest potential.
Thank you.
Yes. Blaine?
Yo, this conversation is giving me so much life. Drop us a note in the chat if you are just loving these gems that Daria and Selma have dropped for us tonight. I would love to dig in just a little deeper on some of these topics with y'all, just kind of women to women conversation. Like I said, I feel all of this as a woman, but particularly as a mother, and just, so much of the issues, that are compounded that Selma, that you just ran through in the presentation. First of all, thank you for ending on a positive note, because the truth of the matter is we know at Dallas Habitat, and I know that y'all know certainly at Wings, that women are already doing the thing. It's already in full swing and full motion. And so if you're here tonight and you're thinking, I'm interested in starting a business, I'm interested in buying a house, I want to achieve my financial goals, it is possible. We work with families, as specifically women, who are crushing it every single day. One thing that I have found to be true in my time at Dallas Habitat, just to kind of piggyback on a statistic that Selma threw out there. Selma, I think that you mentioned something like 18% of all homeowners are single women. So think about that. Nearly 1 in 5 homeowners, y'all, are single women. That is pretty phenomenal, right? Just to expand upon that, specifically here at Dallas Habitat, we find nearly 70% of our homeowners at Dallas Habitat are single women. And so it absolutely can be done, because it is being done right now. And I think a large part of that, from my perspective, is due to grit and determination, and this really sincere perseverance. So many women that we work with, for instance, say, geez, I've been thinking and dreaming about home ownership for years and years and years. I finally took the plunge. My question to you all is, what advice do you have for some of us who might be on tonight's call and are thinking, Daria, I hear you. I want to dream. I want to drop everything and think about me and what I want to prioritize. And sometimes that might feel easier said than done, right? What's like an actionable step that we can take to move the needle for ourselves?
Absolutely. So what I realize that we see a lot of women do is wait until they're in desperation or wait until all the chips are down to reach out for help. Sometimes it's not that I have to be all the way in the ditch to extend my arm. Sometimes it's that I just need to reach out to help get those steps further. I don't have to be on step 0. I can be on step 10 trying to make it to step 11. So sometimes it's understanding that even when you're on solid ground, it's okay to take those steps of elevation, educate yourself, look for resources, organizations like Habitat, organizations like Wings that have programs that are beneficial for helping with home ownership, understanding everything you need ahead of the game. Don't wait until it's time to close and then find out what escrow is. You understand what I'm saying? Like let's educate ourselves ahead of the game. Let's be ahead of the 8 ball so that we can truly be knowledgeable of those things. When you think, everybody thinks about that stigma of never send a woman to the car dealership by herself kind of thing. A man, someone or salesperson will take advantage of a woman going alone. But it's about education. I will spend 10 hours on the internet, focused on educating myself before I go somewhere because I like to go with the facts. So that's my main advice to women. It's all about gaining those resources and that knowledge prior to taking the step so that you're well equipped and well prepared. I tell my team all the time, if you can walk into something and see the good happen on the fly, then you can be great if you're well prepared.
Yes, and I agree with Daria. And I'll just take it back, but we think of these huge goals as home buying goal, and there's so many things that go when it comes to home buying goal. And I really want to let people know is what's something small you can do right now to help you with that home buying goal. So if it is, looking at your debt. So don't think as this huge thing. There's so many things when it comes to home buying. You look at your credit, your income, how long you've been working somewhere, sometimes that real estate, agent. There's so many things, right? But what's something small you can do? And I want to really, let these women or whoever's on this call right now know that it's, those small little steps are actually, they're helping you overall. And it's good to take those small steps. And it's good for you to be your own cheerleader about those small steps. So what's something you can do to help you with that goal, and sometimes, I'll talk about this, even having a conversation with a significant other, with your family, calling Habitat, calling Wings is one of the biggest steps you can take. And that goes back to point that education, right? Maybe say, hey, I'm not that, savvy when it comes to XYZ, so I'm going to need some help. And I think that's, sometimes that takes a lot for a lot of people just to, reach out or to follow up with someone. But just having that conversation is a great goal. Say, we want to buy a home within the next, whatever years. These are things that, I would love to do. Maybe it's cutting down our budget, cutting down our budgets, or maybe saving a little more, bringing some passive income in. But, I really want you not to think of as a big picture. Think of what are some small tasks you can do over time to get to that. And by the time, like I said, and by the time you know it, you'll get to that, buying that home or whatever that goal is.
I love both of those perspectives. And I would say amen to both of those things. This is why, y'all, this is why we focus so much of our energy between both of our agencies, right, in education. This is why. And it's not, financial education is not just helpful if you're interested in buying a house, of course. It's also helpful if you're thinking about one day sending your kids to college, planning for retirement, like Selma discussed, starting a business of your own. All of these things, you can really equip yourself with that financial foundation. And, I'll share that a lot of the education resources that are out there at nonprofits are completely free of charge, right? And so you don't have to necessarily make a financial investment in this. You don't have to go all in. We have a lot of those resources. Wings does as well. We'll make sure, that we continue to drop in some links in the chat for you guys on those resources that we have available. But consider joining Wings for a workshop. Consider going on to Habitat's online modules, the self-guided, self-paced modules that we have, right? Can't make it any less intimidating than that, to take advantage of something that's just at your fingertips. Selma, you segued nicely into another question that I have. You mentioned the importance of having conversations, and whether, we're a single woman or we have a partner or significant other, I think that still when it comes to women and money, there's a lot of stigma. Sometimes I think a degree of shame that we carry. Maybe, we feel like we don't have all of the information to ask the right questions or to open that dialogue, or we just don't feel brave enough, right? To open that dialogue with a significant other or somebody that's close to us that we might be sharing income with or a household with. What advice do you all have as, financial coaches who work hand in hand with women every day on how we can open up healthy, productive conversations about money?
Yeah, and Jared, I'll tell you something. My talking to my husband sometimes is hard about money, and he's in the financial world. Okay, okay, he's a CPA, and I'm in the financial world, and it's still hard. It's one of the hardest topics. I tell people we talk about everything under the sun. Okay, like literally, but we will not talk about our finances. We won't even talk to our significant other, our children, anything. And that's one of the biggest steps, and I think that's something that a lot of the women I have worked with is that's one of the biggest goals, to say having that conversation. It's taking the right time to have that conversation, because we know that talking about money can be hard. It can bring up a lot of emotions. It can bring up past emotions. It can bring up future emotions. We might have this thing about I wish I was here, I wish we were there, or keeping up with the next door neighbor. So I really try to say that kind of what we would do is maybe just brainstorm those ideas, what you want to talk about, and say, okay, this is an open conversation, and kind of make some rules for each other, about, what, how, maybe it's only a 5-minute conversation or 10-minute conversation. It's not going to be a whole day process. But yes, talking about finances, and it's funny because we all want money, we all want to make money, we all have to pay bills, we have to do whatever, and we just cannot have that conversation. But that, what we do is a lot of goal setting. So setting yourself a goal, saying, I want to have just maybe this small conversation with them for this long of a time, and and then we'll come back to it. So it's just, I kind of say it's kind of pulling off that Band-Aid, but I also think to yourself, know who your audience is, know when's a good time to have that conversation. Cause like I said, it can bring up some painful or just some upsetting information when it comes to conversations. But yes, there's this nasty stigma about money and the taboo, because we're not supposed to talk about it, right? We're not supposed to talk about our income. We're not supposed to talk about how much we get paid or what we spend. And I also think that really affects, the household, because if you're not talking about it, you're not being truthful with each other. They might think you're doing one thing and they're not doing it, or, you're hiding things, or you're hiding expenses, or you're hiding money. So you're just not being open and honest. And like I said, it's important for you to both have those goals for each other and to, really support each other. But I also think it's very important for women to stand up for each other when it comes to their finances, and saying, these are my goals, and these are things that I, want to do. These are my goals. So, what can we do together to work together?
Absolutely. I'll just add 3 things to that. One of the things that Wings does offer is one-on-one financial coaching, career coaching, life coaching, all of that wrapped into one, because sometimes it is just about that accountability, having that intimacy, that someone to talk to that isn't just your spouse or your family, someone that that you can trust, that you can have confidence in, that is knowledgeable and has your best interests at heart. So I think that finding resources like coaching is one of those beneficial, little tidbits that can really help in that. And then I think about something that my parents instilled in me, which was friend up. We think about hanging with friends that are on our level, but sometimes it's about gaining friendships with people who are where you want to be, because they obtain knowledge that you desire to have. They are open to conversations that are going to be beneficial to your goals. And so sometimes my mom used to tease me about befriending only those that needed me. And she was like, it's, whatever's inside of you, your giftings, you want to help people. So you surround yourself with people that you can help. But now I get to do that in my career. So my friendships, I can friend up, but having people that you can lean on and that you can trust in, that you can have these healthy conversations with, that are walking along those same paths or have similar goals. So just watching what you surround yourself. When we think about the quote, it takes a village to raise a child. But at the end of the day, when are we no longer a child per se? I'm always going to be younger than my mommy. I'm always going to be my mom's baby, right? Forever and ever. I'm an only child, so I'm their baby for life. So with that thought process, we're ever evolving, ever changing, ever growing. There's always some new knowledge or something to obtain, that we won't have all the answers to. And so creating that village in your life of people that are gonna push you and that are going to pour into you is always going to be valuable when trying to see these differences happen in your life.
I could not agree more than that. I think that's incredibly important and not to be understated, right? Who we surround ourselves with and what energy we invite into our life, and which we have to reject, depending on where we want to go. And I saw a question in the chat that I thought was really on point about this. It's from Dallas Habitat, but I know this is from Porfirio Coronado, who's one of our counselors, who is a man, right? And the question is a great one, which is, what about men? What can men do? And I think that as we enter into this space of allyship, right? Not even necessarily just with our significant others, if we are as women in a relationship with a man, but also thinking about how men can amplify the voice of women in the workplace that inevitably, as you grow, hopefully will lead to more income, more opportunities, perhaps for you as well. And so I think that's a really important thing for us to touch on too, is the importance of how men can come alongside women.
Advocacy and support.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to be fighting, like you said, we want to be a partnership. If it is a significant other, if it's a boss, if it's a coworker, if it's a friend, we don't want, that's not, I know at the end of the day, I'm goals. I want to work together because it is true. Men have it's sad to say, but they have a little more of the amplify the voice, but I love that support being there. I know it's like going to the classes with each other, being, saying, hey, I would love, supporting. It goes back to that support system, being that support system, having them, supporting them, saying, I'm really happy that you're taking those classes, or I would love to join that class with you. So, or say, really saying, okay, and using their voice, going back to advocacy, using the voice to say, I might not understand, okay, or but I definitely want to help them. Okay. I wish I wonder, because I would never, I'm not going to be a woman. I'm not going to be in their footsteps. I'm not going to be, but I want to be there to support you in some way or somehow. So like I said, I love when I get couples that come to classes together. Okay. And I love when that, or one takes one coaching, the other one takes a coaching, because they have similar goals, but they also have different goals too. When we understand that as a coach, that we can't do coaching together because, one will always kind of shine the other one. So it's important to have those different coaching sessions. But I love when couples and that they're supporting each other, when they're supporting their women's small business, or they're supporting of the home buying, or, going back to school, or just taking the class together just to learn. But yes, speaking up, even in the office, with just friends and family as well.
Yeah. And it's okay to ask the women in your life, how do they best feel supported? One of the things I'll share another personal story. My husband was very coached. He played football. So, and my dad was the same way. I told him, you can't coach me. I never did anything athletic. I'm not sports affiliated, other than the fact that you make me watch football, and my son have to sit out in the hot at all of his games. So you can't coach me through things. That's not how I understand. That's not how I receive support. And so it's okay to ask the women around you, your colleagues, your coworkers, the women in your community, the women in your family, how best they feel supported. It may be a sticky note on the mirror in the morning. It may be, that she wants you to buy a new book that needs support. It may be advocacy in the office. I'm speaking up in a meeting on her behalf. Ask. It's okay to ask rather than assume, so that you can best support the people in your life.
That's so true. And, and I feel like too, that, there's so much myth and stigma around women and money, even from a very young age, right? I mean, like, as women, how much did we hear growing up as a young child? Well, girls aren't good at math. That's a boy thing, right? And I mean, this stuff becomes ingrained in the way that we think about ourselves and how we reflect on what we're good at and what our strengths are and what we're capable of. So some of this even is unpacking some of that as an adult and being able to recognize, like, yes, I am worthy, I am capable, and I am absolutely, I have the tools, resources at my disposal to be able to do these things that can change the trajectory of my life. And perhaps, to your point, Daria, about, asking for support when that's needed, or can be useful, that might even be, asking for that significant other in your life, or if it's, someone at work, a friend, whomever that might be, to say, are you willing to sit me down and kind of walk me through this, right? Because maybe I've been counted out my entire life, but, that's not something that Blaine's interested in or cares about, or able to pursue, but it's absolutely something I want to learn more about. When I think about a topic that doesn't fit this criteria hardly any better than anything else, I think that would be investing, right? I mean, like, as women, do we get coached on this, in our personal lives growing up? Absolutely not, right? And so you do have to wonder, some of that risk aversion that we talked about earlier in the presentation is simply due to the fact that we haven't been exposed to a lot of the information about how to tap into the stock market. I wonder, as we kind of wrap up the conversation today, do you all have any resources, like in particular? I know you all work very heavily, of course, with women, as do we at Habitat. And I wonder, do you have any resources in terms of, it could be, influencers, financial gurus, authors that you follow, anyone kind of in a position of influence that you say, you know what, as in terms of women empowerment for finances, this is somebody I recommend digging into?
So just because I literally had to pull it out of the drawer when you said it, I am currently reading, and this was recommended to me by a client. So we were coaching a client, and the client, which is why a coaching relationship is super beneficial, because you never know when it's going to snap back and bless you. So she suggested this book to her coach, and then the coach got it and I did, but it's We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. And then of course I had to get the workbook with it too. But it is about women, specifically these same statistics that we talked about, and how to get over all of those barriers in your personal life. And it is phenomenal. It is my daily read right now. So we can read it all together, all y'all on the call, and me too, as we all continue to grow. And I just think that, just thinking back about just investing, we also host our Fluent in Finance series. And the end of that series is all about investment, retirement. Selma does a crazy, amazing job at teaching, just that next level. Everybody's starting point is not the same. And so understanding how to customize your desire to see residual income, to see passive income happen in your life in your capacity. So I think that that's another resource that we personally have at Wings that would be super beneficial for those that are looking to get their feet wet when it comes to investment.
That's incredible.
So I will say, like, the Dallas Fed has really great resources. So if you ever go to their website, they have a really good, just an investing 101 book on their website, the Dallas, the Federal Bank. So they have a website. That's a really great website. I am a podcast lover. So I love my podcast. So one I really love is also about investing, because you know what, at the end of the day, I'm still learning that as well. And it's funny how we're talking about, like, I was telling my husband, did y'all learn that? Like, did they pull you aside to talk about that when you were young, when they split the kids or something like that? Because maybe they said, oh, Selma, you're not good at math, so you're not going to, you're going to do something artsy, right? They just maybe blew me off. But I always say that, I'm like, how do you know this stuff, right? And, but one of my favorite podcasts, it's called Financial Feminist, and she's actually she actually talks about investing. So how do you invest, those who are maybe at a younger or to a middle age, how do you start investing and taking that stigma, and it's actually building that confidence to be investors. So there's some really great podcasts out there. But like I said, following, finding different, oh yes, Clever Girl. So actually for the Clever Girl Finances, I actually listened to her podcast today because I wanted to hear a little bit. She's a great one as well. But I think there's a lot of resources out there. My only tip is make sure that it's, accredited. So make sure there's something that's out there, but following up with some type, there's a lot, Wings or Habitat, to a financial coach, right? They're going to give you those tools. They're going to give you those tips. They're going to, kind of put you in the right direction if you have any assistance but I also think, like I said, I think a coach is such a great cheerleader. I have my personal coach, and if I didn't have that person in my life, that's that cheerleader in my life, something, that small step I do that maybe somebody wouldn't care as much, but like I said, they cheer me on. But yes, following up with, with any organization, I think that's a really great resources. But there's a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different books. The Millionaire Next Door is a great book. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I think most people love that one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you, Selma.
And seeking those free resources is everything. There's a gimmick out here for you to pay for everything. Oh, pay me, I'll raise your credit score. Pay me, I'll help you reach your first $1 million in investment. Seek free, accredited resource.
Right. That could not be more true. We dropped a link in the chat about our keynote speaker. We love Clever Girl Finance at Dallas Habitat. We love Bola Sokunbi, who is the founder of Clever Girl Finance. I have her book with me on investing. We talked about women in investing, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend her book on investing if you are a woman just trying to figure it out, like understanding. I'm not talking about investing in a 401k or a mutual fund. I'm talking about stock trading that many of us are like, whoa, that's way outside of my comfort zone, right? So these are resources that are out there and available. Bola is our keynote speaker for this event this week. She will be here on Thursday at noon. So if you have not registered for that conversation, please do. It's going to be incredible. She is amazing. And she does offer a ton of free resources, to Daria's point. All of her resources on her website are totally free and available to anyone. Thank you so much for dropping that in the chat. That's awesome. We want to let everyone know before we wrap up tonight that this is just day one of a 5-day celebration of Financial Literacy Month. It's the first week of April. April is National Financial Literacy Month, so we've got more content coming at you this week. Tomorrow, we are focusing on family and youth financial education. So we'll talk about how we open up conversations with our kids, leave a legacy for our children, and hopefully be able to do some really fantastic things like close the wealth gap. And so be sure to join us for those sessions. We'll have Catholic Charities here with us at 10 a.m. to talk with us a little bit about that. And then we've got a partner at the Smart Money Academy who specializes in youth financial education, who will be here at noon. And these sessions, like all the sessions we're doing this week, are free and open to all. So we would love to have you. Selma, Daria, thank you all so much for this incredible conversation. I have learned so much from you all tonight, and I really just enjoyed chatting about how we can do better as women.
Thank you so much. It's such a good opportunity. Yeah, I love this. I love this topic. So thank you everyone for being here this evening and taking some time out.
Yes, thank you so much to Dallas Habitat for Humanity and just for this opportunity in the conversation. It's always great to converse with you guys and help the women in our community.
Absolutely. Well, if you're here tonight and maybe you learned about this event from Habitat and you're like, I want to learn more about Wings, we have that information in the chat box. Make sure you check out their website. Conversely, if you are here because you know Daria, you know Selma and the Wings team, and you're like, hey, I'm interested in buying a house, I'd love to learn more about Habitat, we've got our information in the chat box as well. DallasAreaHabitat.org is our website. We'd love to be able to support however we can. To all of our attendees, thank you all so much for making the time to join us tonight on your busy night. Everyone have a fantastic evening, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Y'all take care.